Cool. So I just want to welcome everyone back to The Social Wildlife. I'm your host, Josh Townsend. On the show today, I have Mike Brown, who brings a powerful message of resilience, positivity, and personal growth. Mike is the host of the Stand Up Again podcast, where he shares stories and insights on overcoming adversity, healing from trauma, and rebuilding confidence after life's toughest challenges. He has a unique presence on social media where his dancing and uplifting content inspire men in particular to embrace empowerment and positivity. Originally from Christchurch, New Zealand, Mike has lived all over the world, including South America, and he now calls Nelson, New Zealand home. Through his own journey as a single parent, navigating toxic relationships and facing down personal setbacks, Mike has developed a wealth of wisdom on the importance of mindset shifts, personal development, and mental toughness. Today, he's here to share his story and offer practical advice on standing up again, no matter what life throws your way. Welcome, Mike.
Nice, man. That's an awesome intro, man. Thanks for planning that out, mate. It's really nice.
You're more than welcome.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It's really been amazing to connect with you, man.
Yep.
I came across you through Instagram. Saw a post that was a pretty interesting one about your son riding his mountain bike.
Yes.
And he had a crash, and he had the GoPro recording on the mountain bike, and it was just sort of what played out in that scenario, and two random adult strangers came in and were just amazing men and took care of him and sent him on his way, and you were trying to find them.
I was. That was the whole point of the post. Yeah, it blew up. It blew up far more than I thought, but I can understand why. Yeah. Because it was a heartwarming thing to see. I mean, for me as his dad, feeling that was very real, and I think that's why it got the engagement it did, because it was such a real moment.
So I mean, for me, like, that's what got my interest in that, is that I've actually been a mountain bike skills coach for probably over 10 years.
Right.
And that's where the interest got me. Yep. But then I started seeing, the crash and how how it played out.
Yes.
And that's exactly, I feel that a lot, because I've coached a lot of kids, hundreds of kids.
Right.
In Panama and Central America, I had a bike school.
Yep.
And we used to run weekly bike events there.
How cool.
And so I'd have a group of kids would arrive on a Monday, and sometimes it would be 40 kids.
Right.
It was like the maximum I could take.
Yep. It's a lot of energy.
A lot of energy, man. And I do have some reserves of an energy, so it suited my skill set.
Yeah.
So they'd start on a Monday, and then they go home on a Friday.
Right.
So
full week.
Sorry, they'd be coming and going each day.
Yep.
But every day was a new progression.
Committed to the week.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I had 3-4-year-olds learning how to ride their bikes, all the way to kids doing jumps on the ramps and things like that. So
very diverse range of things.
Yeah,
happening.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So having the experience of other people's children in my care, and often in adverse situations, they would fall, they would crash, they'd hurt their legs, they'd hurt their knees, and for these kids, particularly in that culture, not so different to New Zealand, where we're used to outdoors, we're used to access to action and activities, whereas I was in a city in a third world country where there is a massive diversity gap.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, when you think about the quality of life here in a first world country versus that space and environment, what was the difference? Main differences?
There's some really stark contrasts, and my daughters are born in Panama,
right?
So they are raised up in this culture. So you've got high-rise apartments, oceanfront views. Like if you imagine Miami, get that image in your head of Miami building skyline, very similar to what Panama City looks like in Central America. Within 10 minutes, less than that, driving down the road, shacks, shanties, people begging on the streets.
Kind of like Thailand or...
Almost like that,
right.
Very much a contrast within, a quick short time. So, and I guess that's what it comes down to. Doing the bike classes, doing the bike lessons was an opportunity for wealthy kids to actually get an opportunity to be outdoors, to get bloody knees, get a bit dirty,
all the good stuff
that we love, And then I also, because of the success of that, I also had the opportunity to offer free coaching to inner city kids, where I worked with the National Police,
right,
and they would bring kids from the hood,
like troubled kids.
It's just horrendous. Like from the real hood,
gangs
where I was okay walking through there because I would be with police, but I certainly wouldn't be in that area on my own ever.
No. Right.
So they would bring those kids out to me as well. So I got to sort of to have my beginning pathway in service.
Wow, what an experience!
It was incredible. It was an amazing time.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you. I mean, would you be able to share a bit about your time? I mean, that is the time living in South America.
Yeah,
You've lived in other parts of the world as well. Is it right? How have those experiences shaped your life today?
Yeah, it's certainly opened my mind and acceptance of how different people are and how different cultures are. So I was born in Dunedin, lived in Invercargill as a kid. School holidays in Queenstown with family. My grandfather had that real connection to nature, outdoors, hunting, hiking. Just going with my grandfather was a massive connection there. So, and then moving to Christchurch as a young boy and teenager through all my high school years and into young man in Christchurch.
Did you maintain your connection with the outdoors when you were in Christchurch?
Yeah, it was pretty close. I went to boarding school at one of the high schools there. We would ride our bikes from the school up into the hills before there was actual trails or mountain biking as a I guess defined sport. It was just riding your bike down a hill.
I did the same thing.
So that was where the journey started.
And the mountain bikes didn't quite have they weren't built the same as they are now.
Not
was
at
a bit
all.
more rickety, like really solid bike going down that hill.
Yeah, that's right. A big chunk of lead going down the hill.
So they weigh as much as a ping pong ball now. You pick them up, you're like, what the hell?
So I started in hospitality in Christchurch, down the infamous strip. Worked my way in as a bartender there at 18.
Cool.
And worked my way into it. There was a really great restaurant and bar called Sticky Fingers.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I used to bounce at, I was a bouncer I did a couple of times at Viaduct. And Liquidity around there.
Excellent.
Did shooters and boogie nights. And
awesome. Yeah, so good times in those days.
I remember Sticky Fingers.
So Sticky Fingers was our spot, and from there we actually got hired to go to Japan.
Cool.
And open up a nightclub and restaurant. Sort of the original was like a New Zealand themed nightclub restaurant in Japan in Osaka.
Right. What does a New Zealand theme look like?
They had Maori carved.
Like cultural New Zealand theme.
Culturally in New Zealand, carved wood bar counters and things like that. But we went there, and I had two friends that we worked with, and we arrived in Japan. I was ripe old age of 20 years old, and I negotiated the contracts and what we were going to do, and we got there on behalf of my two friends and myself, and I thought I was the man, big shot, big time. We're getting hired to go as bartenders in Christchurch, New Zealand, to Osaka in Japan.
Being headhunted.
Yeah, we were. Yeah. It was quite excellent for a young man and his ego.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. And well deserved. To a degree. I mean, it's deserved. It's like you should get an ego boost from that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It did feel good. It was a great time, and I probably spent the next sort of 3 years of my life there.
Cool.
And Japan was an amazing experience. Yeah. And again, first time out of Christchurch, I hadn't even flown. I think I've been to Auckland once on a plane.
Right.
And so to fly to Osaka and arrive and just be completely gobsmacked at the cultural difference.
I was going to say culture shock must have been
all the signs. And there's no signs in English. Everything's in Japanese lettering.
I feel like another planet.
It absolutely was. So it was quite shocking. So the first 3 months were quite tough. But then we sort of got into our groove, I guess, and we stayed on. I probably wouldn't have left there if I could have got another visa.
So how old were you at that point when you first got there?
20 years old when I arrived.
You're out seeing the world. It must have been a daunting but such an exciting experience.
Yes, it was. It was one of those things, when you grow up in a town and particularly the where you're at as a young man and you've got a circle of friends and you've got the job that at the time is, the ideal job for you.
Very social.
Yeah, very social. You're popular, you're doing everything you love. And nothing's going wrong, and then this guy drops in and says, "Hey, why don't you come to Japan?" And nowadays I can say, "Oh, absolutely, you go." But there was apprehension to go.
Yep.
Am I going to leave this, amazing job that I've got, friends and...
It's progressed over a long period to lead to that point, and then it's suddenly a pivot, massive pivot.
Yeah, it is. But, in hindsight, now that I'm a ripe old age of 45, I can look back on those days and just see how that has shaped me as the man I've become and the person that I am to open up to experiences.
Yes.
And to allow different opinions.
Yeah, because it's one of those formative times in your life where had you not gone, that may have also shaped how you took on challenges in the future.
Correct. Yep, absolutely.
You were open to one and it worked out.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Absolutely.
And it showed your mind, your brain that, be open to things.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a great school for a young man at that time.
Yes.
So then from there, spent that time, went to Australia. Had some friends and connections there, spent some time up in North Queensland in Cairns, and from there again I started to build my career and my personality inside the hospitality space.
Cool.
Loved it. I loved the social side of things, and I guess it fitted well with my age. So what happened there is actually I was a duty manager at a place called Gilligan's Backpackers, which is 500 bed, they call it a backpacker hotel, 5-star backpacking, 500 bed hostel,
500,
2,000 people room arena that you could fit people in for gigs. A massive venue. It was an amazing place. So we started doing promotions for AJ Hackett Bungee, which for people out there that are watching, AJ Hackett was a legend for us growing up. He was the guy, for being a young guy in New Zealand, in Queenstown. I think it was in the late 80s.
Yep. Yeah, the AJ Hackett Bungee. I think I've still got it called that.
That's still, right. It's his branding, his logo, his name is synonymous with Kiwis.
Did he pioneer bungee jumping?
He did.
Is that what it was?
Yeah. So he was, I think where he blew up was where he jumped off the Eiffel Tower with a bungee jump.
Right.
With the bungee jump cord, got arrested, all the things. But, this was like the first viral guy, before freaking Instagram or anything.
There was nothing to go viral on.
Yeah, that's right. This is the ultimate,
it's just being talked about.
That's right. And he was on the news and all the stuff. So back in those days, that wasn't even considered a way to get out there. It was hugely risky.
I mean, nowadays anyone can get out there if they have the right content. Whereas like back then you had to... Well, I suppose you could if you have the right content back then. You did too, but look how risky it had to be.
It was much more extreme.
Yeah.
So that's how AJ Hackett became famous, I guess, and his branding and what he was trying to do with the bungee jump experience. So we started working with them as they had a bungee jump in Cairns. So we started working with them, and I was running promotions on a Tuesday night or whatever. We made a small bungee jump and hung backpackers upside down from the rafters in the place and made them scull a red ball upside down while we're bouncing them around. Good fun. And people would win, a bungee jump or whatever, prizes and things like that. So it was a really fun experience.
Cool.
As that developed, AJ and his top guy came to me and said, "Hey, we've got this project in Panama." And I'm like, Panama, why do I know that? And then I Googled Panama and saw the Panama Canal. I was like, oh, that's why I've heard of this place. And didn't really have any idea where it was.
It's just a Van Halen song to me.
It's for most people, man. So that's how, and eventually that's how I got there. So they had a project where they wanted to build a bungee jump experience, and on an island just off the coast of the city, and the actual entrance to the Panama Canal. Amazing place. You see the big ships coming through every day and 24 hours a day running through the Panama Canal. So obviously when that offer came to the table, I was like, let's go. And that's where I met my wife to be.
Nice.
And I spent the next 12 years in Panama, in Central America. So pretty special place.
Made it a lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've mentioned in some of my podcasts as well that experience for me in Panama, because after the 12 years, we moved from there and came back to Australia, where I had some familiarity and started working in the trail industry, mountain bike trail industry, with some companies there in Australia, and we relocated with my girls and my wife.
Cool.
And that's sort of the travel. And I never really traveled as such as like on vacation. I lived
lived in places,
which I think is quite a distinction in experience as well.
Absolutely. It's you're the place that you're going is becoming home.
That's right.
And for a lot of people, they're going places, but they're not really immersing themselves in it to the point where they would have to start to make changes to adapt.
Yeah.
They're still bringing where they're from to that place.
Yeah.
And they know in the back of their mind they're leaving again. So it's a very different feeling.
That's right. Yeah, it is. That the immersion into a culture, language. I had to learn how to speak Spanish.
Yeah.
All these things that came in, and then to add to another layer of complexity to my situation was my wife, her family, they were Jewish.
Right.
I wasn't. We were raised at Catholic high school and all that kind of thing.
Yep.
And so that was where, and this is where I come into, I guess, my story, why I'm sitting in a podcast and why I'm on social media dancing around with these messages is understanding now in the time of how much I was a people pleaser and trying to compensate for where I felt I was lacking in other areas of life to do these other things, these other duties, help other people in a way that's not serving myself.
Oh, you are preaching to the choir.
And it's not serving me, and it's certainly not sustainable.
No.
So, things like giving up Christmas. Sure, why not? I can do that. Just like water off a duck's back.
Yep.
Just okay, I can do that.
Yep.
You're having to study, the language Hebrew and put a lot of effort and energy into becoming that.
Yes.
Okay, I can do that. Fitting into a very tight community that is quite. Well, when I say quite, extremely wealthy in a form that I've never experienced or seen before. Yeah. So, and again, so this small person coming into this, what I perceived as this big thing and successful people.
Yeah. It's like I was just going to touch on before with the relocating thing. Every time you move to a new place, you're changing your identity, but you're comfortable doing that, I guess. And for a lot of people, they are so set in their identity as to it being what it is and where they are. They find it very hard to do that.
Yep.
With you going into that space with that new family and everything, it's like your identity. And if you had a people pleasing kind of like mindset, you end up sacrificing aspects of your identity that are crucial and fundamental to who you are.
Yep,
and I mean,
absolutely.
I kind of, when you said about Christmas, I've had the police called on Christmas and me and my partner kind of separated at her family home because she didn't want to go to, I've got a split family.
Yep.
My parents split up, so I've got two families to go and see.
Sure.
And then I've got a son who also have to navigate his care for the first half of the day.
Right.
But she wanted Christmas morning and lunch at her family's house. So we went to visit mine very briefly in like a 1 hour period. But man, it stressed her out. Yeah. And we ended up having an argument in the car. She said, "Get out of the car, I'm calling the cops." And she just dialed them and I hung up, but they attended the house.
Sure.
And had to realise there was no event.
Yeah.
But I know what that's, I know that feeling of starting to, when you're adaptable and you care about people and you start to sacrifice yourself to make sure that everything's okay, you lose yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And this is my message that I'm trying to get out there now is that when I talk about self-love, taking care of yourself first. I mean, in the airplane, there's a reason why they tell you to put that mask on.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
You're no fucking good to anybody if you're choking and coughing and not at your strongest.
Yes.
How can you support the person next to you, behind you, in front of you, your neighbor, your kids, your partner? You can't.
Yep. We got taught in the army to come across any kind of accident, anything. You obviously assess. The first thing to do is assess the scene.
Yeah.
Is there anything that could electrocute me? Is there someone waiting with a weapon?
Yeah.
All these things, because if you just rush in to help someone, again, the sniper picks you off and then you're another bait for someone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the same thing. It's that you need to look after yourself first so you can look after other people.
Yeah, it's hugely important these days, particularly for men in their fatherhood role and also being a man in the respects of, being a supportive partner and taking care of yourself so that you can be the masculine energy for your partner is what's required. And I think, it's lacking because I don't know if it's been pushed into us somehow or some way, but somewhere along the line, men have been like, oh yeah, okay, sweetheart, you make the call. And yes, there's give and take in every relationship, and there's compromise and there's discussions, but when men step into their power, there is certain things that are just not needed to be discussed. And that allows the feminine to relax and be in her homely feminine energy and caring and taking care and nurturing the relationship, the home, and everything around you, because the man is taking control of the things that he's got to take control of. And I think maybe it's along the lines of feminism and blurring the lines that it got a bit confused along the way. And I feel like we're starting to see the repercussions with the high rates of divorce and family breakdowns and things like that these days.
There is definitely natural roles that men and women like to fit into or gravitate to. It's and I know from an evolutionary perspective, it's the reason that little boys want to play with bows and arrows and fight, and little girls want to look after babies and things like that. They're programmed to practice doing it. And I think men have needs, inherent needs that are there to allow them to feel useful. And like they have a sense of purpose, and where it can be blurred is when society pushes over those and says, "Look, hand a lot of that over."
Yeah.
At a time where they need it, but they also need education around what it looks like to have that in a healthy space.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of people out there doing a lot of damage to the perception of masculinity in society. Because masculinity is society determines what masculinity is. In one country versus another, it's two different things. But we have to be constantly defining the healthy elements of that and how to find those and achieve them, and then educating not just our men but our women on what that means to us, I guess. And there has to be a bit of give and take, but I think that ultimately everyone's going to be different. The type of partner you select is he or she is going to decide what's important to them, and that's where that communication has to happen. There's so many elements to it, and to fit into your natural groove, it's not just what should happen with men and women or what needs to just happen, but it's personality differences. My ex-partner, the one that I was referring to for 7 years, was so hypercritical of me, and that's not healthy, no matter whether you're a male or a female. To be hypercritical of your partner.
And I've found that scenario coming down is from a feminine side of things, that perhaps this is how we motivate our man.
Yes, and for her it was motivating me in her direction. What she needed, what she wanted me to do. And that's the thing. It does serve purpose. There's motivation in I don't know, calling out negative ADHD behaviours, because I had a lot of them. You're procrastinating. Carry on, get on with it. But it's, I think there's got to be that element of what do you want to do? Because it looks to me like you're not doing what you want to do, whereas you're not doing what I want you to do. Do it.
Yes, absolutely.
They're two different things.
I had a massive lesson for me in my marriage. We were married for 15 years.
Right.
And coming into that relationship, okay, so you've got different culture, different religion. So
you met her in Panama. Was she from there?
Yeah, so born in Panama, but her family had come direct from Israel into Panama, and Israel had formed a small community, a Jewish community within Central America.
Right.
They got into construction. They absolutely worked hard from nothing to owning 30 of the biggest high-rise buildings, casinos, hotels.
Okay, so a lot of money.
A lot. And that was something that I wasn't used to either. So stepping into these different roles and language,
multiple culture
business, shocks, religion, and just going for it. Wow. And I guess I really started to, this is where I learned that I had started to shrink myself or make myself fit into a triangle space, even though I was a square.
Pressure's on from all sides.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this was where, and now I can look back at it and go, wow, I needed to be in my own power before I went further into this relationship or further into what we were going to get into, which was raising young children in a foreign country. Yes. And are we in alignment?
You have to be
with our values and goals and how it goes. So, having all of those things and becoming, stepping into an area where I financially wasn't in control. Now, am I saying that, the man has to make the money and the woman has to do? No, that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that you do have to have your own space, your own independence, your own 100%. Purpose.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I think both people in a relationship should be discouraging codependency. But and for a lot of people that's scary because they're like, I want you to rely on me. I want you to be happy, not I want you to be happy only when you're with me. But the thought of saying to someone, so my son's mother said to me once, she was like, I know that I love you because I want you to be happy whether you're with me or not.
Right. Yeah, it's powerful.
And I was like, that is a beautiful thing to hear. And I've used it now as as a component of my definition of love. And I think that if you can truly say that about someone, that is love. It's selfless. It's a case of I care so much about you that if I was a bad thing for you, I would accept that and I would go.
Yeah.
And I think that so many people are so codependent. It's so important that we encourage the independence of our partner.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as a male, it's quite hard to do that for a lot of men, especially if you've got a beautiful partner. And I know a lot of men struggle with that because they would rather, if they don't feel good about themselves, it's really hard to empower their partner because they worry about their partner finding someone better.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, that can feed in both sides. Women can also discourage their partner from being masculine because it's a threat.
Yep.
And I think men are more notorious for doing it, but I think that it happens both ways. And
this is where, like, when you start moving into these relationships, and I can just go from my experience of saying yes to everything and thinking that it was going to be okay, but I was so disconnected with myself.
Yeah.
I was so unaware of my own thoughts, even though I can look back now and go, oh, wow, that was not right for me. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have gone for this. But you can still maintain. It's amazing how long you can maintain that sort of lifestyle of not being connected, not doing the things that are right for you. It might have been 6-7 years and I'm still like, oh yeah, ho-hum. But this is when things started to really change for me a lot. So apart from the cultural side of things as well, there's also in Central America, you have maids, you have nannies, you have drivers, because so
it employs the people there, I guess.
That's right. Yeah. So you've got all these people. So at one stage I had 5 employees in my house.
That's not the norm for that area, or is it just because you're in that Jewish family with the money? Or
it's fairly normal for, again, being in a third world country, that contrast, there's high earners and then there's
it's
absolutely
big gap.
The middle class is very small.
Right, I see.
You're wealthy
or you're
poor.
Wow.
It's incredible.
There's a lot of middle class here, isn't there? In comparison?
Yeah, absolutely. Australia, New Zealand, in other countries, particularly Australia and New Zealand, there's lines are so very blurred.
Right. Yes.
Whereas in a country like Panama, it's sharp. It's sharp.
You're one
and
or the other.
How you speak to people, so how you speak to your employees, how you speak to the person at the bank, how you speak to your friends. It was such a polarizing place.
I guess
quite difficult to manage.
It would really come down to who you're rubbing shoulders with, wouldn't it? Because if you're in the circles where you can make enough money to be out of the poverty, you're probably on the way up. Yeah. And if you fuck things up, you're on the way down. Yeah. And who you end up associating with would often define where you go or where you live.
They're effectively in a country like a third world country, there is no opportunity for, and it's real. There's no opportunity for if you're poor. Like if you're earning $500 to $600 US a month, that's pretty good wage, right, for you to stay in your space.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had at one point I had 2 full-time nannies in the house. So again, this added another layer to. Only thing I wanted to be was a great father, And so having 2 live-in maids when my daughters were born, they were a year apart, so we had 2 babies. I wasn't allowed to go into the room at night when they were crying because we've got nannies for that.
They do that.
They're sleeping. They live with us.
So they get the connection.
They're there. And I often used to look at it and look back, because we would have weekly dinners at, at the penthouse housing, and everyone would turn up and all the kids are dressed up in gowns, and everyone's dressed up a lot just for Friday night dinner.
Right.
Might be 20 or 30 of us in someone's apartment, penthouse apartment, overlooking the water and everything. Wow. It was really surreal. My parents would come over and they would also be like, oh, what have you got yourself into?
Suddenly culture shock for them, and they've had no real work into it.
No, there's no level. And my mother used to, it was so funny, she'd always try and wash the dishes when she's staying with us. Right. And then the maid would come out and say, no, don't do that.
It's almost causing stress for the maid.
Yes, it was, because she's going to get told off.
Yeah.
Don't let them do anything. Let them relax.
Yeah.
So, and coming from a culture where New Zealand Australians, we have this can-do, solution-based
we want to
sort
help.
of attitude. We want to sort it out ourselves. So there's all these complexities, but as they kept adding on and developing, and then you mentioned before about sitting in the circle at the right table. I'd be sitting at the table and everyone's talking about their Rolexes and their Range Rover, and I was just standing there going, my God, so what did I do? I had to go out and buy an $8,000 watch, and just so I could try to be in the circle, even though I was far from it. So these situations that I got myself into were in the long run part of my demise as well. And I'm sitting here now. My daughters now live in Israel.
Right.
So they're there with their mother, and I haven't seen them it'll be 2 years soon. So
right.
And we keep in contact through basic WhatsApp messaging. So it's pretty tough.
I bet.
And that probably brings us on to one of the other questions we've got there.
It does, yeah. Well, the next question I've got here is about Nelson. But do you want me to? I can just go in order from these.
Yeah, just go. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we're going to come back to this.
Sure.
So you've made Nelson, New Zealand, your home now.
Yeah.
How has living in such a unique place after all of that influenced your perspective on personal growth and well-being?
Yeah, it's so funny, man, because when I left when I was 20 years old, I was always hungry, always going to be successful. What I thought at the time was success.
Your definition,
which has changed drastically.
Oh, it does.
And I wasn't going to come back to New Zealand until I was successful. What I deemed what that was going to be, and in those days it was to be super rich.
Yes. Oh, same money. I mean, what I was thinking for the last 15 seconds was the same thing for me. Success was financial. Yeah,
it's just money. Just having money is going to create me a successful space.
Yep.
And I learned that wasn't the case at all. So coming back to, in all, I've been 25 years away from New Zealand.
Right.
Bringing my family to Australia was my sort of strategy, slowly getting closer to New Zealand, trying to work out how I could set something up for us back in New Zealand.
That was your long-term goal?
That was the long-term goal, was to get back here.
Right.
Which was difficult, coming from a country with wealth and this network that we were surrounded in, to want to try and extract family out of that. But again, that preconception when I was 20 of wealth and that's success, and now we've got the Range Rover, we've got the truck, we've got the oceanfront apartment, I've got maids, I've got nannies, I've got 18 staff, I've got it.
Yep.
Oh. Is that
now what?
And now what?
Yeah.
And I felt empty. I felt lost. I felt without direction. So this is where I started like, oh, wow, what money, of course we need money. We've got to pay the bills. We've got to live.
Yeah.
But that level of wealth is just not required, and certainly not a tool for happiness.
Yeah. I've definitely got my own experience in that space as well. But I guess Nelson was the place you decided to settle.
Yeah, so I came back to New Zealand in November last year.
Right.
Visit family.
Yep.
And meet up with a wonderful woman that I'd met through a personal development coaching program that we were doing. Cool. Every week we'd get together. There'd be 40 people on the screen.
Yep.
And one of the women on there, we'd go into breakout rooms.
Yes.
And I started noticing her, and then I noticed she had a Kiwi accent. Because there's people from Europe, US, and you're not when you're in a personal development space, it's not a dating site or anything like that. And I certainly wasn't in that headspace.
You're there to work.
That's right. You're doing the work.
Yourself. Yeah.
You know, I'm crying on thing and, doing all this kind of stuff, really ripping myself open here. And as was everyone else in the space. However, this got my attention and I was like, oh, wow. And then of course, I got onto Facebook, stalked, and saw her profile image was she was wearing a mountain bike helmet, and I was like, "Oh wow!"
You weren't interested. You're really young.
She's too beautiful for me, But maybe she would want to go riding.
There you go. So, friend.
So that's what we did. We started connecting and talking, and then I came to meet her, and I guess that's a talking point now that we are now living together in Nelson.
Yep.
But as we came together, the space and energy that I was creating for myself attracted this person. It wasn't, yes, as far as like I wasn't looking for a relationship. I wasn't looking for someone. Okay, I went onto the Facebook and had it and checked out, but that was the level of it.
Yep.
And then, but when we physically saw each other, there was this connection that was like nothing I've ever experienced. And I know that in the past 6 months, I've been doing heavy work on myself and looking at myself. Why am I been attracting this type of relationship? Why have I been attracting, restaurants and things that weren't working? Why did my marriage fall apart? Why are my kids no longer with me? I just wanted to be a good dad. What was I doing? And that was a realization that, what am I doing? And there's such an important time that you've got to look at yourself. Even though for so many years it's been external. Oh, I can't do this because they speak Spanish. Oh, I can't do this because my wife's got the money. Oh, I can't, everything was external.
You're giving yourself all the reasons why it won't work.
That's right. And what was happening? What wasn't working?
Nothing was working.
That's right. Yeah. So, and unfortunately for us men, it seems to take us some diabolical bloody scenario to happen in life before we snap out of it and look at ourselves in the mirror.
I think I often say people don't change until things get bad enough.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think men are notorious for not making changes until it gets bad.
Yeah, and your problems will persist until the pain becomes too much.
Yeah, and I've spoken to friends recently who are they're battling with kind of being assertive, people who are trying to be more assertive, and I make decisions and actually have to tell people the hard truths.
Yes.
And I said to them, and it was very evident after time when they didn't act on it, that if you don't find the hard decisions and make them, they will come to you.
Oh, they will.
And they come to you when you don't want them.
That's right. You're completely out of control of them.
They're much worse too, when they finally arrive.
Yep, absolutely.
So it's really about front-footing that stuff, doing the hard stuff when you identify it, or at least finding that middle ground, that sweet spot where you've done enough planning to make the decision, and doing it before you've left it too long and it finds you and you have less options.
That's right, totally less options. It's out of your control. Yep. I mean, and so that scenario, I came to New Zealand and I was like, wow, again, going back to this mindset of success and what I thought success was, I've been working on myself and it had changed, and I came back. My parents are here. I was like, wow, it's nice to be around mum and dad, not seeing them just once a year. And then I met this amazing woman. And just the connection to earth, to the energy of my birthplace, the energy of what was familiar with me. I'd spent school holidays a lot in Nelson as well, but we spent some time in Queenstown, which was a really good connection for me. Beautiful place, magic,
Nelson and Queenstown,
And then I went to Christchurch, spent some time there, and I was fortunate enough that I had the resources to spend some time in each place. I spent a few weeks in Queenstown, a few weeks in Christchurch, a few weeks in Nelson, and I was like, wow, no, Nelson's the spot. The mountains.
Yes.
Just there's a spiritual energy, there's a connection to Nelson that is, again, because I'm more aware of this sort of thing, it was pretty much a no-brainer that this is where we're going to live.
I think as human beings, we all have that innate ability to form these or have these spiritual connections to certain places.
Yep.
And I think when you feel it, you know it. It, It's a thing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I've been pulled across this city, and there's only one place that I'd like to be in it. And I've tried living other places in this city, and I can't.
Yeah.
But I still don't know if Christchurch is where it's at for me. I'm drawn in lots of different directions, and I think eventually I'll know where that is.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of places that have my heart.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I feel when you become aware of it, you acknowledge it and you accept it, and you make the moves towards these energy spaces, things start changing.
It has the ability to transform your life.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm finding now already, you know, my space now with, you know, what's happening with social media, the podcast, talking more, offering services online. This is all, you know, none of it's a mistake. It's all meant to happen, you know.
And that leads perfectly into the next question. You have an incredible presence on social media where you combine dancing with promoting positivity and empowerment for men. What inspired you to take that approach, and how has it resonated with your audience?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. You know, again, I was doing a 6-month personal development program. And it was about rebuilding your self-confidence, mostly self-confidence, self-love, and where you could take yourself, and accountability, goal setting, and these kinds of strategies all the good stuff to really start to guide yourself, and be there for yourself. So going through that journey and using social media throughout that journey, they created a safe space. So, you know, you started sharing videos inside a closed community. So everyone's doing the work.
Right.
So everyone's, and then there's men and women. And so you get the confidence to put yourself out there and be vulnerable.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is so powerful for a man to do. And once, you know, and it's an investment, you know, investing in yourself is the most important thing, you know. It's more than going on a holiday or getting a new car or anything.
How easily do we spend the money on a new car or a weekend away or these kind of things? But would we spend that money on a course or, you know, it's harder to spend that money on an investment.
You're going to spend $3,000 on personal development. What? You're crazy. $6,000 on... Really? Like when we're talking about our lives and our mental health and our well-being and moving now where I'm starting to go more in towards the spirituality and abundance and tapping into higher frequencies and things, which is going to be happening over the next 12 months for me. I can feel that's the direction I'm going. And I will love to be talking about that when I feel that I'm ready to. Right now, I'm still very much a student.
I know that feeling. There's lots I'd love to talk about, but for me, I'm like, I won't until I feel more. I know when that threshold's been reached, where I'm like, now I'm going to start in this space.
That's right. So that's what I've moved into now. So rebuilding your confidence, building healthy habits, because that's something that I found straight up was something that I was doing before I realized I was doing it. I was building habits, changing habits. So even when I was in Panama, and this is probably going back 8-9 years now, because I was so unhappy with myself and my situation, I felt completely out of control. I would just hide. And that would be in the sense of, you know, getting recreational drugs, drinking often, because I had my purpose was lost. You know, I don't have to make dinner tonight, so I might as well grab a beer.
That's right.
All these kinds of things that started, I created these excuses that I could start, you know, fucking not being a man.
You find fulfillment in the shortcuts.
Absolutely.
Shortcuts to fulfillment.
So things like, firstly, I did start searching, and back in these days, you know, the personal development space online was a baby, maybe Tony Robbins and these big people that we know these days were certainly in that space, but it's nothing like it is now in the industry now. But so I was searching for something. I was trying to figure out what that was online, and that involved me getting ripped off by two different companies that were, you know, 12-step programs. You know, step one, so you join them online. You go to a seminar, you pay $200 to go to the seminar. Great, no problem. Go to a seminar, the guy's and speaking is great. Go down the back now and you get a packet of books and workbooks and all this sort of stuff, and it's, you know, a great deal at $300 and $400. You go do that, and there's a 12-step program in there, and I was like, this is amazing. This is what I've been looking for. It's about marketing, business, personal development. I'm like, yes. Step number 4. Send us $2,300, and I was just like, wow, they got me, you know.
And they got you at that point.
Yeah, so that at that point, and you couldn't go further without paying them more money.
Oh, I see.
So they get you in paying a little bit, and then they give you a little bit more, pay a little bit more, and then another part of the step is to go further. And now I'll call them out. They were called Mobe, so MOBE. Right. It was an Australian guy. Yeah. And I know he's disappeared off the planet. He's in hiding. The feds are after him. He ripped off. It was a giant pyramid scheme. Effectively.
Such an unethical way to appear to help. You're playing on people's vulnerabilities.
Absolutely, amazing scams. Yeah. And that's what happens. And nowadays, it's what makes the work for people that are trying to get out there and people are trying to help to justify themselves, I guess, or to create that safety. That's where social media comes in now. And what I've been working on is creating, a network of people where you can be trusted. And there's multiple fake accounts I've got out there of myself, and they jump into my DMs and contact my clients and things like that. And they just copy your pictures and things like that. So it's a constant battle. And that's what, coming on social media was a strategy that I undertook. Yep. And the goal was to go viral. Yep. So it wasn't by accident. No. There was a strategy that we put into place. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And we're going to do this. And it come into those habits. Those building habits, committing to something, and going for it and seeing it through. Because it wasn't easy, and it did take time, and it did take investment, and it was uncertain. Yeah. But when you stick to it and you keep going, keep pushing, you've got support around you.
It's a plan you can see that you're working towards something.
And at the time I had a coach, guiding me with this as well and holding me accountable. Like, hey man, where's your post today? Yeah. Should be up by now.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh shit, so the value in finding mentors, coach, like it's something that's helped me change my life.
I'm going to have to talk to you after this.
Yeah, sure. So there's definitely the absolute, I'm a massive advocate for mentors and coaching. Yep. I'm also an advocate of knowing when to pull out, and you've learned enough from that person.
There's a point. And a good coach would say to you, I think you're fine now. We've got you to that point. They should.
And I have been in coaching programs and seen other coaches where they are playing on the fact that, particularly in the personal development coaching space, life coaching, there's a lot of people that want to do it. They have this desire, they want to help, and it's coming from a truly authentic space that they want to help people. Yep. But the fact is, there's a lot of people that won't stick to it.
Stick to their program.
They won't stick to their program. They won't stick to the work.
Tell me about it.
Finding the microphones, getting the camera sorted, the lighting that we're doing, these kinds of things. There's challenges. It's not easy by any sense of the word.
No, you can always, and the thing is, it's like you might be really good in one area, but you really do have to be good in all areas, or you have to, not good, but you have to be committed in all areas.
Committed. Yep.
Because it's very easy for us to gravitate towards the area we're already good at.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
go, I'm just going to pump in that area. But really, that's not going to see you through. Yep. It won't. And that's what I'm finding with different aspects of what I'm doing is I'm identifying my weak points real fast.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely. And once you start stepping into the space, it's really where it starts magnifying your weak spots.
You do,
I'm the same, man. Yeah. I haven't posted now it's been probably 2 months. And it was just because I got to pull back, You
got your reasons?
Yeah. I got to pull back. Yeah. And I just got to see what I'm going to do and start pivoting again to where I want to go. Now on Instagram, I'm almost 200,000 followers.
Yes.
But am I serving those people in the best way that I feel I can?
And what you're talking about here is actually a really important thing and a smart part of the process too, is that you don't want to just keep going in a direction if it's not if something about it's not right. Yeah. I think that ability to stop, pivot, and adapt and change or work with whatever, identify what it is you're feeling, what you need to do. It's really important. Like you say, you want to be able to serve your followers.
Absolutely. And why I'm doing it is to get a message out there to help people. So hopefully you don't have to go to such drastic, diabolical, your world implode before you change. No. Hopefully we can sort of mitigate that. And we can get you some tools, some strategies to help you start making those changes in your life without it, completely, going haywire first. So
that's right.
So the dancing videos is an interesting one. My coach, he's very, very much, he became viral from doing dancing videos, and there was a strategy around it. And when we first started working together, I was like, you know, I want to be in the online space. I want to do this. He's, oh, well, you know, do some dancing videos. And I was like, oh, nah, bro. Like that's your thing, man. Like I get it. Like it's your thing. Yeah. And what I had to do, I had to really look at myself again and go, why are you saying no? And part of what I've been doing over the last 18 months is really leaning into things that I'm fearful of. Yep. Or make me uncomfortable, and understanding that, this is making me uncomfortable. I should go towards it.
Something I need to address here.
So going towards uncomfortable things is completely unnatural to your body, to you, to what you want to do. We can say it. Oh yeah, just do hard stuff, or like Dave Goggins or these guys like do hard stuff, and to a point you can say that. But when you really have to start doing difficult things, this is where you start to really grow and understand yourself. Yep. So
that's an ice bath. It doesn't get used all that often.
Great idea. Yeah. I love doing ice baths when I was in Brisbane and it's 30 degrees.
Oh yeah, coming down here in the middle of winter is not easy.
Came to New Zealand, I was like, no, that'll be all right. Maybe later in the summer I'll take that up.
Yep. Getting up is the hard stuff.
Getting up and not putting your slippers on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Bathroom floor raw.
Yeah, that's right. So the dancing videos were a part of that, and it was like, okay, that does make me nervous to put that out there. It makes me nervous to do it. I'm worried about being judged, and I didn't think I would give a shit about what people would think about me, but that's not true. That's absolutely not true. We all care. Of what people think about us. Yep. The point is that can we push through and go, hey, you know what? The message that I'm putting out here is from real, authentic experiences that I've had. Yeah. And I want to help someone get through that. Yeah. And I'm going to play the game.
Yeah. It's the what is it that they care about? And then what is it that I've done? Yeah. And I guess there's some things that obviously you should care. It should matter that people see you that way, whether it's a criminal or these kind of things. But if you're doing something and you have a good purpose, maybe you're going to ruffle a few feathers. Yeah. You got to think about, you can often think about, why are your feathers ruffled?
Yeah, exactly. What's bothering you about this?
What is it that you don't like about this? Because, it's vulnerable for me, but, are you the type of person that exploits a vulnerability? Yeah.
Absolutely. So moving into those dancing videos was a big one, and it was selecting the right kind of music, the captions at the right amount of time so people could read them, and then busting a move.
They were awesome. Honestly, I saw you sit in that role beautifully. It is awesome. They're wicked.
I find I really do bring that energy, and it's a space. I do it before every video I do. I just sit there and I go, remember how far you've come, man. Yeah. Remember how far you've come. Remember just 2 years ago.
What a beautiful ritual.
And it's just a few seconds, and it rushes through, and it's like, let's go. And you push the play button, and that's a true expression of my energy and joy that I'm feeling, because it is freaking amazing how I've managed to become a positive man and become a positive role model, even though I've still got these things, my daughters are not with me and I'm not the father I wanted to be or I thought I was going to be, all that stuff's still there. It doesn't go away. No. But I've learned how to manage it and counter it, balance it as well, which is really important. So that's, I guess, the manifestation of the dancing videos. Obviously, a lot of people seem to resonate with it. So I'll certainly keep them up because it is fun, and the energy that I feel afterwards, it's just a good vibe.
It's got to be a positive thing.
Man.
Do you select the songs yourself?
Yes.
They are so catchy. Like, you've got the best ability to select catchy songs, because often the ones that I've heard are almost, some of them are covers or remakes but they're a dancey version of a song that already exists and was catchy. But they've put the best spin on it, and you're just like, can't help it.
Yeah, some of the DJs, there's a guy, Cyril was one of the DJs there. Right. The Sound of Silence, which is a massively viral song. That he's a young kid from Aussie. He's just blowing up as well. He's traveling all over the world now being a DJ. So that's that energy, that receptacle energy that he's putting out there, and then we tap into it. And then the beautiful thing about social media gets such a bad rap, but it also is a powerful tool and an amazing thing that we get to tap into and use to share good. And I believe we're at war. We've got to combat all the crap that's out there. We've got to put positive messages out there. We have to.
I guess society has never been as connected as it is now.
Yeah.
So this public space that is the internet exists, and it never used to.
Yep.
So we were combating it in our local neighbourhoods.
Yeah.
We weren't combating it on the world stage.
That's right.
Everyone is at war now with that negative versus positivity stuff, with the misinformation and information.
Absolutely.
It's happening now. I can go to war with someone in London now.
Yeah.
You know, and that's never been possible.
Yeah,
it's never been possible.
It's such an interesting space that we're on, and the volume and the scale of everything is there. So I really truly believe, especially for us men, an older guy like myself, you know, if I can present some positive energy with a good message, then it's a duty to do this shit.
You do, yeah. You're the hero. You're a hero in someone's story, and it is a duty, 100%. I'm finding that moving into a space where I'm kind of anti-misogyny. Yeah. And I'm speaking for, I guess, I get stereotyped. People assume I'm a certain type of person.
Sure.
And then when they hear me speak or they spend enough time around me, they start to think, is this a mask?
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, he's actually got some beliefs I didn't think he'd have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm finding that I'm realizing that there's very few men like me that have those. Yeah. And then I'm realizing how valuable they are. And then I'm like, I have a duty to see that through.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And I feel that 100%. I think there's too many people out there who probably have the potential that we do in these spaces and don't act on it. Yep. Because they're too afraid of how they'll be judged, treated. They've got the ability to really have an influence.
Absolutely. And I guess, again, that comes back to my coaching space and teaching these habits and how it comes about. Yep. You know, one of the other things that I did last year outside of the personal development space was in Australia, there's a movement called the Commanders Rebellion, which you probably relate to being from the military. They operate for men in business and relationships, 4 to 5 day immersions. Right. And it is extreme.
Is it for people coming out of the military?
No, it's all all the practitioners are all ex-military.
Oh, I see. Right.
The guy that runs it, Curtis Tafar, shout out to Curtis. He's still my mentor. Today we still keep in touch, and I certainly follow things that he does. He's an amazing coach in business, personal development, marketing, systems for your business. Incredible guy. And so he's developed this over the last 3 years, and it's an incredible experience. And part of his strategy through that experience was before the lead up, 7 days before we're actually to deploy, we had to post on our personal Instagram. Right. Now, and there would be certain questions. So what does it mean what does it mean for you to be a man? Right. How do you show up? There was a set question.
You had to post this, answer the question
on your Instagram and post it. Now, I've been in a personal space where we were in a closed community. Everyone was doing the same work. It was a nice, cozy, comfy space. Like everyone was vulnerable. But it was private. It was closed. Yep. Yeah, there was 2,000, 20,000, I can't remember how many thousands of people in it, but they're all the same mindset. Yep. Now I've got to go on my Instagram where I've got, ex-bosses, ex-workmates, people that, I was worried about being judged. Yeah. And it was just that push, that we needed. And that's where I started building the confidence to even be able to present myself online, talk to the camera, look to the camera, engage with people to eventually freaking busting a move in public spaces in Brisbane. I mean, it's these steps, these coaches, these guides, and these mentors that we need as men, I believe, to push us further, push us past the abilities, because we've got this limiting beliefs in ourselves from our childhood, from our upbringing, from our past experiences that didn't work out. Oh, it's not going to work out this time either. But when you've got someone on the outside that can see you, and can see your power and then look into your eyes and go, that's not true, man. Keep going.
Oh, that's so important.
And this is the value in investing in yourself and finding mentors and coaches that resonate with you.
Yes. Yeah, I had one coach and he was fantastic. He was great. But I realized after I'd worked with him how much I needed it at the time, but I was ready. Yeah. There was a point where it was so important.
Then
Yeah.
And that's something I guess with you as well. Like I've, in the past when I was having troubles in my marriage, we went to a marriage counselor and then I went to a psychologist who was just pretty quick to prescribe me some pills. And I found that this space now that we're working, because I believe you are certified or training or in counselling or something.
No, I'm working towards it. So I'm in second year of my undergraduate psychology degree.
Yeah, right.
And then I'll go into a master's in social psychology.
Wow.
And once I've done that, I'll go into clinical.
Awesome.
So it's going to be like a 5-year journey from here.
Awesome. Time goes fast.
Yeah,
man.
I want to bring evolutionary and social psychology into the clinical space.
Yeah,
and kind of have it shape how I practice.
So with someone like yourself being in that space, studying and the discipline that's required for that, and then having someone like myself that's a life coach, and coming in from personal experience and the school of life, how do you feel like that works?
Well, I have a life coaching diploma, and I guess I bring that into, and again, it's just study, isn't it? But I have a very colourful life history.
Yes,
I've spent a year in prison. I've done time in the military. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've been diagnosed ADHD in the last year, and I have overcome a lot of often self-inflicted things. And I guess when I'm talking with you, I feel that same an energy of that life experience that you have to contribute. And I guess what I want to do is I want to bring that into a clinical space. But I think there'll be limitations in terms of I know that there's going to be so many moments where it's going to be right, can I get a police check done, please?
Right.
And that's where it's going to be mine's 7 pages long. And it is. My criminal record is 7 pages front and back. And the reason that is because Ministry of Health, when they charged me with 128 charges.
Good Lord.
Well, they charged me with 297. I pled guilty to 128. Wow. But they all got put on my criminal record.
Yeah, and they're all there.
There's drink driving, there's driving while disqualified, there's, importing Class C, there's all sorts of things in there.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to looking at my, are you fit and proper, it's where I'm going to have hurdles. But I feel that I do have a lot to offer in that life experience space because of just, I guess, the journey I've been on. So I resonate with you 100%. The clinical stuff for me is more about knowledge than anything else, and just seeing how far I can take it.
Yeah, well, that's powerful, man. Not having knowledge in that background, plus overcoming adversity and moving into positive space.
That's the plan.
Yeah, man, that's a powerful tool. Absolutely. And I think if you do start coming across those challenges or those blocks, so to speak, how things have developed in the personal development space now, people resonate with your authenticity.
Yes.
You're not going to be a coach for everybody. There's going to be people that don't like you. There's going to be people that are like, man, I want to learn from this guy. So, it's probably, the path you're on is good.
That's what I'm hoping. And I know that there's almost catch-22s to it, because it's I know that if I went in as a clinical psych in the prisons, for example, I'd be able to talk to those prisoners. Yeah. Because I've been there, but they wouldn't let me in there. Even if I was a clinical psych, I think it's this guy's a risk to us because look at his history.
Yeah, sure.
He was a drug manufacturer. He was he drink drove. He drove while disqualified. The newspaper article says he gave the middle finger to the court system and the orders that they made.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are we, even with his psychology degree, why are we going to let him? He could be manipulating us.
Yeah, sure.
And so I think I don't have any aspirations to work for the government. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to offer people who might resonate with me an option because they might not resonate with a middle-aged New Zealand European woman.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They might be like,
absolutely,
I want to talk to the guy with the tattoos.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the one that I know has been behind bars because you don't understand how this feels for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that could be really valuable for some people.
Oh, 100%, man, 100% will be for sure. There's someone for everyone.
Yes, that's right.
And we've just got to create that space.
Yes. Yeah, well, I think in my case, it's quite an empty space. There's not a lot of clinical psychologists that have been in prison. So, and I know that I use the prison reference as a thing, but I use it because it's extreme.
Yeah.
I guess it makes up a component of my journey. Yeah. But it's one that is a real test of our resilience. Even though if we put ourselves there, it is a big adjustment. And I think that it's something that carries a real stigma with it. It's a lot of hostility can come from people around it. But you've just got to work with it.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah.
So diving into your podcast that you run, Stand Up Again, is that right?
Yep.
It revolves around healing from trauma and toxic relationships, is that right?
Yeah.
Can you share briefly what led you to focus on these topics and how these experiences you've talked about have shaped your understanding of trauma and healing?
Yeah, so again, as I mentioned earlier about my marriage breakdown and how that came about, and I guess it was the tough part about, I made the call on splitting up because aside from my own inadequacies within the relationship, aside from that, it was extremely abusive.
Okay.
Emotionally, verbally, and it was happening in front of my children on a regular basis, fairly normal. So, and I probably stayed in that relationship for 5 years more because I knew, because the threats had been made, that if there was going to be any kind of breakup or separation, then I'm taking the girls, we're going to go to Israel, or I'm taking the girls, we're going to go to Panama or something like that. So,
and I guess you don't have the same rights as you would have had you been in New Zealand under the court systems and things.
Well, I was in Australia, and when this came about, and I did talk to a lawyer, and they just said, well, firstly, have you got $40,000 to invest in this process? And secondly, you've already moved the kids from Central America to Australia, so that's a big move, a cultural difference. So that's a big move. The courts will look at that. You've both got no family in Australia. You've got some family in New Zealand. That's fine, but it's not in Australia. So there was those two key
Australia
points.
is just going to be like, you guys go. No,
we're not getting involved. Even if I did invest that money, they said, those couple of points there, it's not looking good for you. And usually the kids are to stay with the mother. And I also was never going to be the guy to say, the kids are staying with me, you have to stay in Australia. I could appreciate it. But I had to accept that I'm not going to be the father that I envisioned I was.
So it was trade-offs. You were working out what you had to trade off, and for 5 years it became your emotional well-being.
Yeah, that's right.
And the kids, I guess, to a degree.
That's right. Once it was really affecting the kids, the girls became, teenagers. They really understand the arguments. The doors getting closed, their disconnection with us as parents, and respect as competent adults that are constantly bickering and fighting and nitpicking and back and forth. Your kids are watching all of this. Yeah. And I was just like, this is not the healthy place. It's not a healthy environment. There's stress here. Yeah. Constantly. Yeah. And then obviously I'm for myself as well. Yes. But I had to make that call, and I had to say, okay, what am I going to do once this happens? Because it's going to go down, and it went down very quickly. By the time I made the call, it was within a month, probably a month and a half. They were on a plane. I was dropping my kids off at the airport to not see them again. Wow. Which was horrific, and probably even more so was my youngest daughter, teenage girl. She wasn't crying. She was just like, hey, yeah, okay, see you, Dad. And that was rough. I was like, man, what am I going to do to save these girls? Yeah. What am I going to do as a man, as a father, now that I'm not there? And this was this battle that I was going on. And then obviously I went to a very dark space. Yeah. For the next few months, had people around me, thank goodness, my parents, close friends that were effectively surrounded themselves around me and were helping, but that was that was barely enough, Yeah. And I had to take action, and so I had to decide. Well, then I need to rebuild myself. I need to become strong again in my mind. Yeah. And I need to learn the tools that I'm probably going to need to use to help my young daughters and become young women.
Yeah.
When I get to see them again or get to heal with them again, which is going to be a process.
What did you put that down to, her not being upset or not crying?
Yeah. I think she's hiding it. She's boxing it. She's pushing it away. Bury that down.
Yeah.
She was a very strong young girl.
Yeah.
And you could see it in her. And so she's just saying, and you could just tell she's just put on her armor.
Yeah.
And this is me. I'm good.
I'll deal with it later.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dad will be there. We're going to do this. I'm fine. You know, which is hard to see your youngest daughter put that armor on for herself, because you want to be the armor. You want to be the protection.
Yeah.
And now I'm the cause of it. You know, which is this pattern of guilt and everything that came in was tough. Was horrendous, actually.
Yeah, it's that feeling, isn't it? It's almost like it could be. Well, I don't know if it's like this for her, but it's almost like it's convinced optimism. You're like, this will be all right. This will be fine. I've got this. Yeah. And it's like, actually, there's some stuff here to acknowledge. Yeah, this is going to be a big change now.
That's right.
And I when my parents split up when I was 11, I just thought to myself, I'm going to get 2 houses now.
Yeah, it's cool.
I didn't really think about the emotional effects or how it would affect me or what the difference would be. And within 4 years, I wasn't living with my dad anymore. Yeah, yeah. Or at least 3 years. Yeah. No. Yeah. I'm not going to. Don't you tell me how to treat her. She's not my mum. Yeah, yeah. And then it was just the result. We're two opposite ends of a magnet. Yeah,
and at that age as well. Coming into that age, you're trying to flex and become yourself, even though we don't know how to. But
yeah, and I guess that's normal for everyone to kind of go through that. But it was, I guess the point I'm trying to make is when I first knew that my family was splitting up, I just buried it, like it'll be fine. I didn't think about the effect that would have on me long term.
Absolutely. And that comes into like my next point again about trauma and identifying trauma in my own personal development journey. And I remember when I came across this particularly childhood trauma, and I feel like, as an industry or as an idea, the concept of trauma needs to be identified in a maybe in a better way. Because I know that when I came across it, childhood trauma, I was like, my mum and dad were together. My dad worked hard. My mum worked. We had a loving house. We had money. We had everything that we needed. I had a fantastic childhood. No trauma here. Yeah. That's going to be an easy module. Yeah. I'll get through that one easy. Yeah, yeah. But what actually did happen is that it was probably the most powerful module and part of my personal development journey, that because I got to look back at my childhood and start to identify the key points where, oh wow, that did affect me. Yeah. And I feel like, when as adults, now that we talk about trauma and childhood trauma, that as a child now, okay, there is trauma, sexual abuse and horrific things and violence and being beaten, these kinds of things. Absolutely. Yeah. That's trauma. But as a child at the time, you're not traumatized in the respects of not, on the extreme side of things. Obviously, sexual abuse, that's horrendous. Kids, that's a horrible experience. But on the other side of things, from my examples, were school was really tough. Yeah. The teachers were really tough. Yep. I started comparing myself to my father's success, even as a kid. Yep. And that's attributed to my people pleasing and to wanting to fit into people's spaces, make everyone else happy around me as an adult. Yeah. Now, this is also classed as childhood trauma. Yes. So, I'm interested to know what you think about that.
Yeah, so we touched on this briefly about it being on a spectrum. Yeah. I think if you were to say the word trauma to someone who had survived the Holocaust or sexual abuse as a child, these kind of things, and you referred to, we'll use the example of how people pleasing and things, what happened to you as a kid, they would say to you, they'd find it disrespectful, or they would say to you, don't you ever refer to that as trauma, because it feels like you're invalidating what happened to them. Yep. But if we look at physical trauma, we have to acknowledge that it sits on a spectrum, and it's used as a word that refers to damage.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So at the upper end of physical trauma, you've got loss of a limb.
Yeah.
Or a gunshot wound.
Yeah.
You know, quite serious. At the lower end of trauma, you've got an ingrown fingernail.
Yeah.
Right? They're both trauma.
Yeah.
And so if we refer to childhood trauma, everyone goes to the big end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
If you're not talking about sexual abuse or violence or drug use or anything like that, you're not talking about trauma. It's not trauma.
Yeah.
Okay. But unfortunately, let's look at all the rest of the spectrum and let's give it color codes. You know, so you've got the red, orange, and green. Green doesn't necessarily mean it's good for you.
Yeah.
But it's in the lower end. It's the ingrown fingernail.
Yeah.
You know, I would say that all of these things, because they are on the spectrum, contribute to behavior in adulthood.
Yeah.
And all of them will influence your decision making, your fears, your insecurities, your relationships, everything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, the fingernail might not influence things in the way that sexual abuse would.
Sure.
But it all has an impact.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's just our definition of the word.
Yeah.
That is the issue.
Yeah.
And the fact that I think the people who have undergone, gone through the worst of it,
Yeah.
we just need to be careful about how we compare our version of it to theirs. We're not invalidating theirs by using that word.
Yeah.
And we are understanding of it, but I think we have to have some understanding of their position, that they are coming from a place of significant pain.
Yeah.
That, like I said to you, we talked about it briefly, that I had a friend who talked to me about that someone had lost a child, and their cleaner hadn't done what they'd asked them to do.
That's right, yep.
But both of them were presenting to him or her in the same way.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were looking at at different times thinking, this is interesting. But it was real for them.
Yeah.
And so that's not to say that, I'm sure if we could swap experiences for a second,
yeah,
one of them would go, oh, my problems aren't so bad.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But we can't do
No,
that.
we can't do
and
that.
it's not, that's where communication comes in. And I think in our situation too, that's the same. If you want to refer to childhood trauma, it's almost like it's got to come with and you're in a space where there's potentially people that are that have been through significant in the red end of the spectrum. We've got to be very careful that with those people, we're very understanding of how we refer to our trauma.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we invalidate our own.
That's right.
And I had someone on a recent course do that with me. She said to me, she was the executive director of the company that was running the course, and she said to me, stop talking your achievements down. Because I would say, oh, it's just a diploma, but I'm working towards my degree. And she'd go, it's a diploma, it's fine.
Yeah.
Don't discount it. It's a diploma.
Bring it up.
Yeah. And so, it's the same thing. I mean, we can't invalidate our own to compensate and make sure that they are like, we're like, oh, look, I've got this childhood trauma. I'm going to call it that, but it's not that bad compared to yours.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this was the stuff now. This is the stuff. By trauma, by using the word trauma, I'm just telling you about the things that affected me negatively as a child.
Yeah.
And then now how I'm dealing with that, because I'm trying to rewire some old patterns.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's actually causing some really negative things in my life now.
Yeah.
I don't want to be doing that anymore.
Yeah.
And so, look, I'm completely understanding of your position, and just at the other end of the spectrum.
That's right. Yeah, and I think that's such a key thing, is identifying, and especially if you're starting to do work on yourself as well.
Yes.
Like, just as I just remember very clearly thinking to myself, oh, this is going to be a breeze. This trauma section of the training, and then how pivotal and how amazing it was for me to identify what caused some stresses and bad patterns in my life.
Yep.
And how I can now. Awesome! I get the chance to rewire this.
Yes,
and I see it, and so now I can create the opposite of what I can see. So
such an empowering thing.
Absolutely, and I just hope that other men can get the chance to understand that there are things that happen in our childhood that are maybe at the time are not super drastic, but they do affect your decisions and maybe where you're at if you're feeling like something's not quite right for yourself in your life as it is now as a man. Yeah,
it's almost like and society does this. We create words. We create words for things. Yeah. It's almost like we need to find a word that isn't trauma, but it's
still has to have some weight.
Yeah, it's got to have some weight. And this is what happens is as things get more PC.
Yes.
As things get more PC, new words pop up and they're used. It's like neurodiversity is used now for a spectrum of things, from autism to ADHD, all over the place. And it's no, he isn't. No, you don't say it like that. It's neurodiverse. It's like it's almost could be that way with trauma. No, we don't say trauma.
Yeah,
because that's for the upper echelon of pain.
Yeah,
we say. Yeah, and it's you don't want to have to do that. But I think it's just about realistically boil it down. It comes down to acknowledging that there is a spectrum, and if you're around someone who survived the Holocaust, we don't talk about the nail. Yeah,
that's right.
We can. There'll be different courses, I'm sure. You know what I mean? Anyway, very different courses.
Absolutely.
But it's all very relevant. Yeah. Our experiences are our own.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah.
You speak about personal development and mindset shifts, and I'm just wondering if there was one specific moment that you can think of where there was a shift in your mindset that was pivotal. Is there one that you can think of that stands out? And how did that change your approach to life's challenges?
I think that's a tough one to answer because I think I've always been searching for this thing, this power, this big bang, this change.
Yep.
And when I look back, and I referred to it earlier, is these small habits that started and they just gained momentum, like a snowball going down the hill, started getting bigger, and the momentum changed, and it developed like that for me. Yep. I was always hoping for that magic switch.
Yes.
The one coach or training module would just tap me on the shoulder and I'll be away. And I just found that hasn't been the case in my experience. So it's been a number of small things. So it started with like deleting the shoot 'em up game app on my phone because I was spending half an hour a day or an hour a day playing it, or maybe 2 hours.
Yeah.
Then it went to fast forward, getting out a journal. What do you write in a journal? How do you journal?
Yes.
I don't know. So I've got a book. So that's, again, this is another stage in the snowball increasing and the velocity increasing in my personal development. And then it was like, well, how do I journal? Oh, all right. Just write down 5 positive things each day in the morning. That's it. Don't think about it.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for the fruit I have in my fridge.
Yep.
I'm so grateful I have an iPhone that I can send a message to my friends. I'm so grateful that I have a bike to go for a ride. Just these things, because what we're doing is we're training our brain. There's chemicals in our brain that are affecting our body.
Yes.
And particularly in the morning, I've found that when you can get up, you can get a journal and write these simple positive things, simple things. Don't overthink it.
No, just what comes out.
That's right. Simple stuff, and it creates, and that chemical gets released in the brain and comes through your body, and it's just a stepping stone to making you feel better.
Yes.
Then it was, okay, I've always been an active, fit person, but then it came to, okay, now I'm going to lift weights.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the gym. Gyms are scary. I've never been to a gym. So what did I do? I just went to one.
Yep.
And just was like, hi, and nervous about going to the gym. Talked to someone. Oh, okay, cool. Went to another gym, did the same thing. Then I went to the third gym and like, right, now I'm going to sign up and I feel confident that this is going to be a good place, just breaking down these little barriers. So
yes,
there's certainly not one, and I wish there was.
There are general areas of life where there was change, but there was fundamental points and milestones throughout that contributed to the overall change themselves.
That's right. And then when you get to look back at yourself, and again, like now that I'm in the space of personal development and making podcasts and video posts and trying to be there, and you start to self-doubt yourself again. Oh no, is this the right thing to say? Am I doing the right thing? These habits, these things that you changed over time, that's the time you look back and go, hang on, man, look how far you've come.
Yep.
Remember.
That's right.
Remember when you deleted that app.
Yeah, and that's your ritual too.
Yeah, that's right.
Pre-video. Yep. Remember how far you've come.
Remember how far you've come. Just remind yourself how far you're coming. Oh, I got this.
I love that.
And away we go again.
Yeah.
Try again. Get a YouTube video. Learn how to do stuff. Learn. Keep going.
These are the little moments that make up the big change.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's important.
Awesome. Perfect answer. I love it. So in one of your episodes, you talk about dealing with haters. and negativity. I love this topic. I haven't talked about it enough. What strategies have you developed to maintain your confidence and focus amidst the external criticism, especially as someone in the public eye?
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, when you first start posting these dance videos, I spoke about it earlier. Leaning into the fear, something that's scary or difficult, like go towards it.
Yep.
I'm not saying go towards the burning fire.
No.
I'm saying, go towards the thing that makes you feel uncomfortable in a personal development space.
Yes.
So there's those types of things, something that's scary, but you're going to grow from it.
See how deep the water really is.
That's right. Something that's going to help you to grow, even though if you push through it.
So
there was one example where I went actually in Brisbane in the city, and I was there and I took my tripod with me, and I was shitting myself the entire time because I knew that I was committing to doing a dance video in the middle of the traffic aisle there, and it was going to be scary, and my palms were sweaty. I can remember it very clearly. It was a beautiful day, and it's on my Instagram there. I'm wearing a blue
I've got to find this
t-shirt and a grandpa hat on and white shorts. So check that one out. And I was in a little park sort of zone, and there was a street on both sides, traffic lights, and it was like quite a busy restaurant sort of boutique shop area. And I stood there, I set up the camera, and one thing about my videos is that the music's live, like the music's there, and it's got to be loud.
So you play it on the phone while it's filming, or you play it on the side as well? Or?
No, I play it on the phone while it's filming. So I turn the volume up as loud as it can go,
right?
And away I go.
You dance into your phone,
dance into your phone with the tripod in the middle of the city,
right.
And it's just, and I was watching people walking. I was like waiting for people to walk away enough. I'm like, this is it, And away I went. And during that video, a car pulled up, and a guy wound down his window. I didn't hear what he said, but it wasn't "love you dancing."
No,
it wasn't that. But it was some negative comment or something like that. So I guess my strategies for getting over that is my self-love and the morning routine that I have, and that I try to be as consistent as possible. And whenever I feel that I'm getting stressed or things aren't going right, or the negativity starts creeping in, I look at myself and go, "How, man? Your daily habits. When was the last time you did your mirror work? When was the last time you did your journal?"
Yeah.
Shit, it was 3 days ago. So these things are, because I believe you're in a daily mission to take control of your mind.
Yep.
And it has to be just like working out at the gym. We went for a gym training this morning. I mean, that was awesome. You to get your condition, you got to be consistent. You got to keep doing it.
That's right.
You know, and or even like we shower every day because we get dirty every day.
Yeah.
So you want to wash your brain with positivity because negative stuff comes at you every day. We're getting bombarded.
Oh no, yeah.
Constantly.
You got to cleanse yourself of it. Yeah.
So there's a couple of key strategies there, which I mentioned before: the journaling with positive affirmations.
Yep.
5 simple affirmations.
Yep.
Next one would be what we call the mirror work, which is a very interesting one and something that was quite intimidating. So I'll actually stand in front of the mirror and look myself in the eyes. And I challenge anyone listening to watching the podcast or listening to have a go at this. It's quite confronting.
Yeah.
So you want to have 7 things that you forgive yourself for. You want to have 7 things that you're proud of yourself. And you want to say 7 things that you're committing to yourself.
Wow.
And I can guarantee you this strategy of looking yourself in the eyes, forgiving yourself, and as you progress through this, at first it starts big, Oh, Mike, I forgive you for not being the father you thought you were going to be. Mike, I forgive you for taking drugs and smoking marijuana because you thought that, you had to lower your energy. Mike, I forgive you for divorcing your wife. These big things. But as you develop this, they become smaller. Hey, Mike, I forgive you for not doing your journal last week. Mike, I forgive you for, eating the burger and the chips when you said you were just going to do salad. It's just these things that come, but looking yourself in the eyes, I really challenge anyone to really talk to themselves and love themselves like that. And you want to find a nice closed door, a bathroom, and there's no one around.
Yeah,
because it can get a little awkward.
I bet it does,
and it can get a little emotional too.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I mean, I felt like it would be emotional even hearing you say that.
Yeah, so the first time that I came across this strategy, I held off for probably a week or even 2 weeks, I think, before even doing it, because I just looked at myself in the eye and what I was going to forgive myself for, and I couldn't.
You're like, no.
This is too much.
Yeah.
So that's a really, really powerful one. And then obviously just moving the body, keeping fit, and keeping exercise. So why does that help with negativity? Well, you're enforcing your own positive action. You're enforcing your own love on you. You're enforcing that on yourself. People can say whatever they want to say, and it doesn't. What does that mean?
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
It's the internal validation.
That's right. You start loving yourself. You start respecting yourself.
Yeah.
You start moving into your power. It doesn't matter what happens around you. And particularly that podcast that I recorded was coming from family members, from ex-family members, from from external places, which certainly triggering for me, because even though I've been working in this positive space and building myself, that guilt that I carry, it's still there.
Yes.
I've just learned how to counterbalance it and not let it overtake my life and keep me down.
Yeah.
It's still there, but I overwhelm myself with positive actions.
Yeah.
That's just going to stay there and be where it needs to be.
That's your armor.
Absolutely. Positive armor.
Yeah. There's so many people out there who just aren't doing enough of it. And of course everything can overwhelm them at that point.
There's other things like I haven't watched the news in probably 2 years.
Right.
I don't have Netflix.
No.
I don't watch TV.
Yeah.
There's just, and again, that's part of those little habits that I just started enforcing. And it's just like shutting out negativity. I'm staying with my parents right now as I'm visiting you here, and last night we put on Netflix, put on this some Nicolas Cage movie.
Yep.
And there was a scene where the main character, the woman, she got gang raped with her daughter watching, and I was so aware of the emotion that it was creating inside me.
You weren't used to it.
I was like, whoa, this is heavy, man.
Yeah.
This is our entertainment.
Yeah.
Let alone going to the news and seeing the wars and all the shock and all the stuff that we're trying to surprise ourselves and shock us and get us to pay attention.
Yeah.
And that's with all our social media stuff, death, crashes, fights, different to organized violence. So that's different. UFC, boxing, that's a bit different. But I'm talking about street fights and punch-ups and fights at school and this kind of thing.
I still find things like UFC, I guess taking for people to enjoy watching others get hurt. I there's a bit of that. I can understand that the concepts around it, that it's warfare effectively, and you want to see how skilled you are. It's a test of skill. Yeah. There's a point where it becomes unhealthy. I don't know where that is yet. Yeah,
no. Well, it is unhealthy, and this is what we are doing to ourselves constantly, and it's just not consciously happening.
No, a lot of people would say too, like, oh, that's the reality. Life used to be a lot harder than that, or fights are this is what happens. And I think to myself, well, yeah, it is, and so is beheadings and things like that. They happen. Should I show a video of that to my 12-year-old son to show him what the real world's like? No, because it would traumatize him.
That's right.
And it traumatized me when I went looking for that kind of stuff. And I think we're very lucky to not be exposed to that level of violence and things. But I think sometimes people get desensitized to whatever it is they're doing, and they don't understand what it would be like to actually be in the octagon.
Yeah, that's
with someone who wants to see your blood on the floor.
Yeah, that's right.
It'd be quite a confronting thing.
It would be, particularly those guys. They are there they're trying to kill each other. The referees to stop.
Yeah, they're like
dying.
Yeah, they're like a sheepdog. A sheepdog does everything except bites the sheep.
That's right.
Or everything except kills it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
they round it up.
Yeah,
they get them where they want them.
Yeah,
or they get them where you tell them to take them. And like in a MMA fight, you're getting them to the point where they're almost dead.
That's
or
right.
they're not capable of defending themselves anymore.
You're allowed to, or you're expected to keep going until someone tells you to stop.
And full credit to the two people that decide to get into it.
Yeah,
they're both consenting adults and do what they like. But there's a lot of people who I would be looking at each individual audience member and wondering what their motivations are for watching it happen, and then asking them how they conduct themselves when they leave.
Well, that's 100%. Unfortunately, there's a trickle-down effect, and now you'll see schoolyard fights, and when they fall on the ground, then it's on the ground.
Yep, it's ground and pound.
It's accepted to keep beating someone when they're falling over, whereas that's something that we just want to move away from. And these negative environments, and I know fighting and violence is again on that spectrum. It's in the red area. But what about when you listen to the morning radio on your drive to work?
I think when I was doing sales at Les Mills, I was told by our sales manager that if someone has a positive experience, they tell 10 people. If they have a negative experience, they tell 50 people.
Correct, 100%.
And I think that we inherently want to pass on negative information, and we're concerned about it. We want to know, what is it? What's happening? What's happening? Oh, okay, that's not happening to us. But tell me more. And the news is about that, really. It's this human nature. They only put stories on they think will get engagement.
That's right.
The negative stories get our attention.
Absolutely. And it comes under the guise of information.
Yeah, it is.
And safety.
And it is. I guess it is information to a degree, but it's the information that shapes our worldview.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I guess you could argue, hey, look, if I don't want to watch that. And I've got friends who repost Palestine, things that are going on in Gaza. They will post stuff that I'm quite surprised Instagram even lets on there. I'll be clicking next on stories, and then dead child with a hole in its head.
Yep.
And if I was to say to that person, why are you posting this? They would say, because it's what's happening. Everyone needs to pay attention. Everyone needs to take notice. I get it. I understand, right? And they'll go, oh, you just go next on your phone, looking at everything that's going on. Yes, I get it. But we are so limited in what we can do here. Even if the whole population rises up, you're looking at it, and this is politics, and man, there's going to be some controversy in this and what I say. But you've got a conflict that's been going on for so long, and it is an atrocity what's happening. Don't get me wrong. But how do we want to live our lives here in New Zealand? If you want to go there, go there. If you want to spread the word. But you don't know who's going to come across that image of that dead child. And I think that, again, what we can do is we can shut ourselves off from that kind of thing. And I'm not saying, it's obviously debatable as to what is the right thing to do there. But the news is, again, on the spectrum of things that we can limit. If we find ourselves affected by this stuff. If you're in a really good place and you are curious about what's going on in the world, of course, the news might be for you. That's if you want to know what the negative things are, if you understand it well enough to know, okay, 2 out of 3 articles on here are going to be something negative. I get that. Oh, that's a nice one of the bunnies that are in Bukagala at the moment. But then there's also the war in these countries. So I think it really comes down to our emotional state, what we want to achieve from it, what we get out of it, and if we know what we're going looking for.
Well, 100%, man. And you touched on that perfectly. Is that if you're feeling down and you've got some negative thoughts going on, well, then these are the things you need to shut out immediately. You do not need that in your headspace.
They'll amplify it.
Your head's full of it already.
And it makes you feel like the world is a hostile, horrible place. Right. And don't get me wrong, it can be. It's not like that everywhere.
No, that's
right.
And
it's really what we make it a lot of the time.
And I have to be hyper vigilant, I think, particularly when we touch on Israel and Gaza and the war.
I wondered that after.
I have my daughters there.
In Israel.
1 hour and 15 minutes away is the border. Drive. 1 hour and 15 minutes is the other side of Christchurch.
Are they in Israel now?
Yes.
So do they get warnings where rockets are coming over and things like that?
So, and again, it's part of the culture. It's totally normal to, got to go to the bomb shelter. Okay. So when my daughters, the war broke out, and I saw the news and I freaked.
Was that border where they crossed? Was that near? Is that the border?
1 hour away from where they are.
That's where they are, right?
And Israel's tiny.
They breached in 20 minutes in or something, didn't they? Or half an hour in or something.
So from where all that went down was 1 hour's drive from where my daughters are. Just down there.
Wow.
That kind of diabolical violence was happening. And so being a father and seeing it on the news, the instant stress levels go up, but I'm just so powerless to do anything. But what put it into perspective, and why I even further solidifies my point of staying away from the news, the sensationalism of the news, is that I spoke to my daughter on WhatsApp and I said, "My God, how are you guys doing? What's happening?" And her response was a voice message, and she said, and she's a teenager, but she still used explicit words. "Dad, these effing terrorists, I'm so pissed off. I was going to go to a Bruno Mars concert on Saturday and it's been cancelled. And now we're not going to go to swimming school tomorrow. We've got to stay home. It's bullshit." And I'm just like, okay, this is putting it into perspective for me.
They're alive.
Yeah, they're alive, and that's what they're worried about.
Yeah.
Frickin' Bruno Mars concert, So unfortunately, fortunately, however you want to look at it, Israel is very well equipped to live in a hostile environment. They are surrounded by enemies, massive countries that hate them. And some of them just actually openly admit to wanting them to wipe them off the planet. So, but they are so powerful as a small country, and they have a lot of support, obviously, as well. So
because they got the support of the states.
That's right. Yeah. So I know guys that are in the military in Israel, and they know a lot. They know a lot on the world stage. So whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. All I'm trying to do is protect my kids. Yeah, of course. By me watching the news and watching the sensationalism of the polar opposites that's happening, it's not helping me, or it's not helping them. It's not,
and again, without going too deep into the conflict, it's not something that you can easily even start to form an opinion on, because you'd have to get a doctorate in it.
Yeah, exactly.
And even then, you'd probably have a doctorate in one side of the conflict.
Biblical freaking war.
Yes, it's just ridiculous. Yeah. But I can understand the wanting to avoid constant updates and that kind of stuff, and also biased updates as well.
That's right. It doesn't help.
No. Rebuilding confidence and self-worth is a key theme in your work. What advice would you give to someone who feels like they've hit rock bottom and doesn't know where to start when it comes to rebuilding themselves?
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, first of all, like, the beautiful thing about being at rock bottom is you've only got something to go up from. Being at rock bottom, assuming that your relationship's fallen apart, or you've got no more finances, or you're getting kicked out or something. The rock bottom is a great place to be. Unfortunately, fortunately, because you've only got a place to build from.
Yeah, there's nothing left to lose.
No, there's nothing left to lose at all. Fortunately, and we've touched on it again with coaching online, there's a lot of resources out there with YouTube and online space now with personal development and coaching and helping people. Yeah, okay, there's a lot of these things do require investment, but there's a lot of information and a lot of strategies and I guess gateways to someone's coaching network that are free. So I would absolutely start using Instagram to start searching, TikTok to start searching personal development. Because that'll start affecting your algorithm and start feeding you these kinds of people, these positive people, these people that can help. And then all of a sudden they'll be like, hey, if you give me your email address, I'll send you, a 5-day challenge for free. And these little things are going to be those little habits, those little steps that you're going to start taking that are going to turn into that big snowball we were talking about before. You've got to start. Yeah,
you've got to acknowledge that there's going to be some work involved, but you've got to take that step to be ready to start the work. Because that work is the climbing the ladder.
Absolutely.
Getting back out of rock bottom.
Getting back.
And it will be a new place.
Absolutely.
You're never going back to where you were either.
No.
You know what I mean? There's never going back. You need to kiss that comfort zone goodbye, because it's up to you to create a new one.
Absolutely. And even if you do fall back into the addiction, or you fall back into that relationship or whatever, you're going to fall back into it with a different perspective.
Absolutely. You'll be a new person.
You're still going to fall back into it, and you've got a chance to get back out of it again.
Yeah, you've got to understand you are changing your identity. You've gone from this person to rock bottom, which tells you that something needed to change. And now it's up to you to find out what that meant. It's the journey, finding out what that was that you were supposed to do.
Yeah, and there's heaps of free content out there to start the journey. If financial isn't the situation, then start dedicating the money, putting that money aside that you've got, and invest in a mentor and a coach 100%.
And don't give your money to the first coach you find.
Not necessarily. No.
Get a few different opinions first.
Yeah. Do your research.
Yeah. So failure is often seen as a stepping stone to success, but it can feel overwhelming in the moment. Could you share a brief story of a time where you felt like you were failing and how you found the strength to stand up again?
Oof, man, there's a few stories. Yeah, I guess on this journey now, as I came through, I had the experience of going through the Commander's Rebellion, which is that 4-day immersion, military immersion. Coming out of that feeling empowered and refreshed, and then having to go back to the job that I hated.
Yeah.
That should have been an amazing job.
Yeah.
But now I've got this, I'm like, I'm growing. I've grown.
Yeah. I don't fit those shoes anymore.
I've acknowledged something.
Yeah.
And this is a powerful space, and I loved it. And then I had to go back to the grind. You got to go back to work. You got to go back to the life that whatever's
triggering
not working.
You. Yeah. It's all the wrong triggers.
Yeah. So it absolutely took me some time, and probably over the next couple of months, I quit the job.
So you knew you had to make some changes.
I had to.
Yeah.
So I quit the job without having another job to go to.
Right.
I'm not recommending this.
No.
I'm just saying that's what I did.
That's what you did. Standard disclaimer.
Yeah, I did that, and it was powerful. It was empowering, even though I was terrified because for me again, I was still tying money to success, and the job is some sort of status symbol. Leaving the job.
Yep.
No, nothing to go into except for post some more. Do another podcast.
Yeah.
Step into it. Yep. What scares you? Go towards it.
Right.
So
yep.
I guess in a nutshell, it comes up every few weeks probably.
Yep.
Fear. Look at myself in the mirror. Go back to the journal. Go back to your habits. Go back to washing yourself for positivity.
Yep.
And the fear goes away. It's your mind telling you things that aren't necessarily true about you.
Yeah, that's right. Everything's going to convince you not to build that new identity. Hang on, no, you're not this person.
Man, it didn't work last time. It's not going to work again, man.
It's trying to keep you safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no growth.
Keep going with that. Just put Netflix on, watch TV.
Yep.
Chill.
Yeah, as long as it's not pick up that meth pipe.
yeah, that's definitely a line.
You've got to discern what the right one is.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. And so in your journey of personal development so far, how do you keep the balance between embracing failures as learning opportunities and not being too hard on yourself when these things go wrong?
Yeah, it is a battle. It is a battle. What I've learned to do is to fail quickly. I've found myself in the past being stuck in that, thinking about it and planning, and it's got to be like this, it's got to be like this before starting the thing.
Oh, I do that too. Yeah.
I think we touched on it before about, the studio and the setup, and the microphones and things, and like wanting it to be something. My podcast is the same. It's not up on YouTube yet. Because if I sit here and go, I need to get the good camera, I need to get the right lighting to get it onto YouTube, it's never going to happen. So pushing through the fear, and it's just this never-ending battle with your mind, because your mind is always going to be trying to keep you safe.
That's right.
And safe is just blocking stuff off, chilling, and doing something that's not pushing you.
I mean, lots of people in history probably thought they were safe until the Vikings came.
Absolutely.
Or something happened. And then this is the thing we talked about, where you can convince yourself that you are, or you can convince yourself that you don't need to make a decision, or that something doesn't have to change. But ultimately, unless you can't stay, life is dynamic.
Yeah.
You can't stay in one state.
No.
It doesn't work like that. It's the same way that people have referred to happiness. I know I tell a lot of people that happiness is not an end state.
That's right.
It's not an ultimate goal.
It's not a spot to get to.
No, you can try and maximize it or be happy as frequently as possible. Yeah. But ultimately, there's going to be another emotion after that. Otherwise, you're dead.
Yeah. I always remember when I first started the personal development journey and scrolling, trying to find this thing, like what is it? And coming across, I can't remember exactly who it was, but they would just say, hey, just be positive. I remember how triggering that was when I was like, that pissed me off.
Yeah.
I mean, just be positive, motherfucker.
Yeah.
I'm going through some shit. How do you do that?
Yeah.
You know, and just acknowledging that, you know, you've got to grow, you've got to move, you've got to keep pushing. If you're feeling like it's not right, it's because it's not right, and you've got to push. You've got to go through that and finding the coach or the mentor or the program that resonates with you is going to change your life.
Yeah, and you'll know when it does.
Yeah,
you'll know
absolutely.
when it does.
Yeah, man.
So just very briefly, what do you think some of the main challenges are that men face these days in terms of mental health, and how do you think, I mean, rather than focusing too much on how they can overcome it, well, first of all, what are some of the biggest challenges that men face at the moment?
Yeah, I think, again, this concept of masculinity and what that is.
Yep.
You know, what is that for a man these days? It's not macho. It's not physical domination. And men need to identify what that is, and it's creating a powerful space within yourself.
Yeah, because vulnerability, for example, isn't necessarily considered a masculine trait, right?
No.
But if you can show it, you can be it, that shows strength.
Yep.
And so the way I see it, strength is a masculine trait.
Absolutely.
If you can do the hard thing,
yep,
and be confident in your ability to do it, that makes you strong, which is masculine. So for example, if you feel like you don't want to tell your partner how you're feeling, and that would be too vulnerable, consider that maybe by telling her how you're feeling and being vulnerable, you're showing strength.
That's right.
And then in that strength, if she doesn't receive it well, or you're ridiculed or whatever, which could be a fear, how you deal with that defines how strong you are as well.
That's right.
And I'm not saying that like you should be comfortable being ridiculed, because you shouldn't. But if you can find the strength to deal with that possibility, and then make the right decision if it happens, which is addressing the unhealthy behavior in the room, the ridicule, everything's fine.
Because if you don't address the ridicule and say, hey, you know, that's quite bad, like how you're speaking to me. If you don't do it that way and you go throw the glass across the thing, then the cops are called, and what's happening? You're in trouble again. So,
and throwing the glass doesn't show strength.
No, you've just stepped yourself down.
It's a show of force, but it's not strong.
No,
there's a real difference between force and strength.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So strength is the ability to hold something.
Yeah.
Force is the ability to hurt something, or break something, destroy something,
push.
Move something. You don't need to move something to show someone how strong you are.
Yeah,
and that strength, I think this is a big definition. This is a big difference in masculinity, healthy versus toxic.
Yeah,
is that the force, the movement, the show of force is the unhealthy aspect of it.
Yeah,
and the healthy aspect is actually sitting with the thing that's hard. And I guess emotional regulation comes into play there.
Yeah.
And if you can regulate your emotions, that shows strength.
Yeah.
That's not something that's easy to do.
No.
Anything that demonstrates strength is not easy to do.
That's right.
By definition, there's dudes pulling jumbo jets with a rope, or trucks with a rope. They've trained for years to get that strong. And it's not, if you throw the glass the first time, you're going to deal with the consequences of that. But you were never expected to have that strength immediately. I mean, it takes time to measure that and work it out. So maybe don't give your deepest, darkest secrets to your partner like that.
Yes, that's right.
But think about doing it.
Yeah.
Start with small steps. Where's the vulnerability today that I can demonstrate?
Yeah.
And then when I get a positive reaction from that and she opens up a bit more, and then you're like, oh,
okay,
well, that worked.
Yeah.
We're a bit closer now.
Yeah.
Shit. Okay, I might do that more.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you're telling her what your kinks and fetishes are, and, she's
and
she's like, "Whoa, you're a freak!"
And you guys are having a great time.
Yeah, that's right. Right. So it's that thing of the small steps, and understanding that the vulnerability is a strength.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's those little things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for a man to be, I mean, look at yourself, for example. What podcast episode is it where you talk about, you know, your mishaps and going to jail and these things? I can't remember what number it was.
I talked about a lot of it in my first episode.
The first
a while
episode.
ago. Yeah.
So that's one I listened to. You know, imagine now if you didn't do that podcast and you weren't vulnerable and didn't say exactly what happened, and then we're 6 years down the track, you're building this personal brand, and then someone goes, "Hey, man, you're in jail.
That's absolutely right.
You're a punk."
Yes.
And you're like, "Oh no,
you're not who you claim to be." That's the thing, and I think the fact that I have talked openly about the infidelity, the jail sentence, the everything.
Yeah.
Everything. It's that we talked about that strength that's there, and the fact that I get to own that stuff is hard. It was hard. I expected so much hate.
Yep.
And I got so much love. Mm-hmm. And not love, they're not supporting my actions.
Yep.
They're supporting my ownership.
Yeah.
They're supporting the fact that I'm owning it, and they're going, good on you. I'm modeling behavior that other people can do. Yep. You can do this. You can't, no one can heal. You can't move on from something unless you acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And if you acknowledge it and you don't change it, then you're a dickhead.
That's right. That's 100%.
Like if you want to own something, if I'm like, okay, I'm owning this. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this again. And then I do it again.
Yeah.
And I go, well, I won't do it again. You know, it's like with people like, oh, okay, you're full of shit then.
Yep.
Come back to us when you own it for the last time.
Yeah. That's behind you.
Yeah, you really, if you thoroughly understand what you did and why you did it and what's going on there, or you're working to do that, that's enough. That's enough. There's the strength. Cool, great. And I can trust you to take ownership.
Yeah.
No one wants to be around, no one wants to be friends with, no one wants to be a partner to someone who can't take ownership.
No.
It's one of the first things I'd look for in a relationship.
Yeah.
Kindness, can they take ownership?
Yeah.
Cool, I can work with you.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely, man. And you've inspired me as well. Like I've certainly got some stories that'll be coming up in my podcast in the future that'll be, you know, those stories of, you know, back in Japan and even before Japan, you know, being in Christchurch. And like, I think that's probably one of the reasons why I resonated with you so much again, is that the level of vulnerability and then the story you're telling. And there's so many relatable aspects to my story as well. Maybe I just didn't get caught.
No, I think a lot of you didn't get caught.
Yeah, that is so true.
Yeah, a lot of that, and I was very out there, and I was really breaking boundaries, big boundaries. So yeah, I get it, and I needed to get caught though.
Yeah, that's right.
It stopped a lot of things.
Yeah, it's a good
finally.
thing, man.
Cool. So as you look ahead. What are some of the new challenges or themes you hope to explore on Stand Up Again? That's what we did just talk about that.
Yeah.
Or any of your other platforms?
Yeah. So I guess the challenges, I guess I see them as opportunities.
Yep.
And where I'm moving into, again, you know, stepping into my strength, into my power.
Yep.
Stepping away from the mentors and coaches that I did have. There'll be other mentors and coaches that I will take on. I don't know who they are or where they are, but I know
you'll know when they know when you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So at the moment, it is setting up a base in Nelson where actually it's quite exciting that we've got a space where we can hold men's retreats.
Cool.
Which is exactly where I want to be going.
Yes, I'd love that.
Some physical space is something that's going to push men to do the hard stuff. Places where we can prove ourselves, and then places where we can be safe to share and grow together over a couple of days. A magic space up there. So
I'd love to be there. So let me know when you do it. I'll come along.
You're coming.
Yeah. No, I'd love that.
Yeah. So that's that space. Building up the YouTube channel. Cool. Getting more programs online.
Sweet.
Something a little bit more, I guess, lightweight, not too intensive.
Yep.
For those people that want to dip their toes, so to speak. Those people that are starting out. Those people that are like, what do you fucking mean being positive? You know, like that. I just keep going back to my experiences when I first started out, probably 8 years, just thinking that I needed to do something to change.
Yep.
Making accessible content or accessible programs that are inexpensive and accessible and available to people to start. And then if they want to take it further, by all means they can. You know.
Yeah, fantastic. I love that.
The goal.
Yeah. Awesome. And so finally, if you could leave listeners with one piece of advice for overcoming adversity, I know again it's going to be hard to select one thing, and reclaiming their confidence, what would it be?
Yeah, the one piece of advice would be to look at yourself in the mirror and remind yourself of how far you've come.
Right. Yeah. Sounds like that's a very integral part of your ongoing journey.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. So yeah, look at yourself in the mirror and always remind yourself of how far you've come.
I love that.
Yeah, man.
I had there's a particular song that always triggers me, and it talks about remembering how far you've come. And I know that when I was going through the worst parts of my breakup with my 7-year relationship, I didn't know what was wrong. But whenever I listen to that song, I get shivers down my spine, and that told me something was wrong. It was good though. I felt proud of myself. But I felt like I was going to break down.
Yeah.
And I knew that was like, I really need to explore this.
Yeah.
So I resonate with that.
Yeah, man. It's good stuff. It's powerful.
Well, this has been inspiring.
Awesome,
It's
man.
been awesome. I love this conversation. I love your energy and just how this has all come together. It's amazing. So thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me, man.
And I'm very certain that this isn't the last time.
Absolutely not. We're only just beginning.
We are. Thanks, man.
Thanks, brother.